What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We are just leaving Cars and Coffee. There were so many bikes out today. It's about 70 degrees here, and so everyone on a motorcycle showed up today. Usually for the past few months it's been like hardly anyone, but now everyone's out, man. I hate people who just rev bomb. You can call me square and whatever, but my gosh, is it annoying. Gotta love it when everyone leaves Cars and Coffee and just like immediately goes as fast as they possibly can. And you gotta appreciate the cops, honestly, because pretty good cops around here to not bother us like crazy and let us do our thing. He was pretty good at wheeling, honestly. He killing the streets, giving us the smoke. Everyone just wants to make as much noise as possible when they leave Cars and Coffee. Well, anyway, so the topic of the video today is what's it like living with an R3? I've had this bike since 2020, and so I'm coming up right on my 5-year kind of anniversary of having this bike, right? So what's it like to have an R3 for 5 years and use it as your daily as your basically like the bike you ride most often? So my time is split between, you know, the 4 bikes, but by far the R3 gets the most use, the most time on it. And so what's it like to have this bike all the time? Well, when you go to events like that, you are the smallest bike pretty much there. I'd never seen anyone show up really on a 250 or anything smaller than like an R3. So do people actually treat you badly or, you know, say anything? The answer is no. Nobody says anything. If anything, people will be like, oh, what is that? Or people will be like looks good, classic Mustangs. But nobody really cares. I think people just are like, oh, you're riding. But like, I didn't film this because I didn't want to be rude, but like when I was going to leave, this girl, she could have been like, I mean, this girl was like barely pushing like 4 feet tall and like could barely tippy-toe touch the ground, and she rolled up on like a 1000 in like booty shorts and like no protection other than a helmet. And I was just like, I don't know, you get, like, everyone can do what they want to do, right? And you know, in my opinion, unless you've been riding for a long time, but she just seemed like that 1000 was like a lot for her to handle, right? Like, it seemed like a lot of weight for her. Like, she couldn't balance it very well. And it's like, you can have a ton of fun on a 300 still. And I mean, I kind of use this bike just to commute places, honestly, and it makes it a lot more thrilling to commute places. So it's just like, it's a great bike, and you know, the sound of it is good. I know I just said I hate people revving, but I'm sitting on the rev limiter while people are on the sidewalk. So, and there's no one even behind me. But yeah, it's a super fun bike. It's super reliable. I mean, it's just like effortlessly faster than everything, like all cars on the road. You have the power to overtake, and it's a totally fine bike. Like, I don't commute to a job every single day because I have a job where I work like kind of remote, and I travel in like a work truck, sometimes. So I'm not using this to commute every single day, but most of the time when I go out to ride, it's on this bike. And so, does it have enough power? Sure. Is it so much power that's super thrilling? Not all the time, especially if you're on the interstate or the highway or something like this, you know. It's not like super thrilling to just constantly be ripping the throttle. But man, when I get to some of these back roads, it becomes really fun. And part of the fun is like you can't get yourself in too much trouble. Like the theme of Cars and Coffee today was McLarens, and every single McLaren had a radar detector in the windshield. And it's like, yep, because you spent so much money that you got something with so much power. And now you just constantly are trying to avoid all the extra like fines of having that power, essentially. And so, you know, never really have to worry about it on this bike. Nobody really bothers me. One thing I think a lot of people miss about the R3 is the chassis is so good. I have firmer springs in here, and a Kawasaki 650 rear shock on this thing, and oh my gosh, like the chassis and the way that this thing feels at high speed or going through the corners, it's just so stable and planted. And it's something I feel like nobody talks about on the R3. And it's just like, oh, it's so good. Like going through these corners, it's just like, it just feels so good with an engine that has like linear power. And I mean, you know, the nice thing about the R3 is it's not like you all of a sudden hit a crazy power band. It's just super linear power. And so it is satisfying to rev out because you are getting more power, unlike some bikes, right? Some bikes, the more you rev it out, the more just exhausted and tired it feels, or something. Like, it feels like the power just plateaus, right? Like there's just no additional gain from like revving it out. But the R3, like, you feel like you're getting something out of it. It screams, like it's kind of fun, right? I'm just trying to let these cars get a gap so I can actually do something, because there's a twisty portion up here. But yeah, the chassis feels so good. Get on some like lower speed, you know, back roads that have some twists and turns to them, and you can just have fun. And it's so nice. And you know, one thing I like about this bike is you got a decent amount of headlights. Like, you have quite a bit of light on the front, right? You got the two headlights, you have the one in the center. Like, you're throwing off a decent amount of light. So when you're riding at night, or you know, just during the day, and you want to be visible, like, it really helps. This BMW has thoroughly ruined this road. Oh my gosh, you suck. Look at all this debris in there. Green light. Like, it's super fun, but at the end of the day, you're not getting yourself in that much trouble. It's super fuel efficient. The tires are cheap compared to normal sport bike tires, and you still have the look of a sport bike, you know, and you saved a lot of money. So I still think that the R3 is a great bike. And with the new one, maybe the question is it still a good beginner bike? Is it still a good daily bike? And I would think, yeah, because the technology they put onto it isn't so much that's going to be super distracting. Like, as a beginner, you don't want a ton of technology, where I knew he was going for it. You don't want a lot of technology. This is going to be super distracting, and you know, you won't be focused on the road or focused on like pulling the brake and pulling the clutch and come to a stop. You'll be like, I don't know, like distracted by like phone notifications or, you know, whatever like super complicated thing. Maybe you like accidentally hit a button and now your speedometer and tachometer is gone. You don't know how to get it back. I don't know. Like, I would just think that less complicated is much better for beginners. And honestly, like, there's just something about all those bikes I was looking at Cars and Coffee, because there were hundreds of bikes and almost all of them were made within the past 5 years. Most of them were made in the past like 2 years or so. Like, I can't believe the people just spend lots of money on bikes, and these, like, you know, really nice ones with displays that have all the info and everything. And I just gotta say, like, I just like the more analog, raw experience. Like, having a digital gear indicator and a digital speedometer is pretty much the maximum I want, and I just want like a giant tachometer. And that's why I love the R3 so much. It just feels like a true enthusiast machine. Like, it just feels like a true enthusiast bike, because you can actually use it all the time. You know, part of it is like, everyone was joking at the McLaren day that like, oh, not that many McLarens showed up, like only 10 or so, because a lot of them broke down on the road, right? And like, is a McLaren an enthusiast car? Absolutely. But is it very unreliable and has a reputation for being unreliable? That is also true, right? Like, known for electrical gremlins, whatever. And maybe it's not true so much today, but that's a reputation they have. And it's like, to me, part of it is like something you can wrench on, something you can work on. And I do all my work on the R3 myself. I put tires on myself, I balance them myself, I just do everything on this bike myself. And you know, and it always runs, it always starts when I want it to. You know, anything that I come across is really not that hard on this machine. It's still pretty simple, and the engine's been run for such a long time that if you blow up the engine, I mean, man, you can go get another one probably from a crashed one, right? The beauty of a beginner bike, or something considered a beginner bike, is lots of people are crashing them, so cheap ones are plentiful, right? And I just think that's part of like the enthusiast thing, is like, I'm okay with wrenching on my own stuff, I'm okay with working on it, but what I really want is to like have the experience of riding, and that's where I just love the R3. I wish it got a better reputation as being like an enthusiast machine, and like being like capable. I feel like a lot of people just downplay its capacity, but I mean, it's a ton of fun. So a couple of things to talk about on this bike that make it good for living with every day, and part of the reason why I choose it out of the 4 bikes in the garage, right? So you have nice mirrors that don't have a ton of vibration in them. They're actually like pretty nice and stable even at high speeds. You can see good images in them. They're pretty nice and wide. The shape is pretty good, and you know, I have fairly broad shoulders, so I do see some of my shoulder in it, but the way you can move them and configure them is actually pretty good. So mirrors rate pretty well. Gas tank capacity is not amazing. You're probably going to be doing like 150 to maybe like 125 to 150 miles, and then be looking for a gas station. So if you have a long commute and stuff like that, it's not amazing. But you know, it is that sport bike kind of design and mentality, and so you can do plenty, right? You can get pretty far. Honestly, by that mileage, I want to pull over and stop anyway and stretch, so it's okay with me. As far as lights and riding at night, I think that the lights on this are really good for riding at night. I very much like enjoy riding this bike at night. I choose it quite often as my preferred bike to ride at night, honestly, over an FZ or over even my CRF that has like accessory lights on it. Just the stock lights on this bike are so good at night. I have no complaints there. for vibration on this bike. So you might think this is going to be a super like high vibration bike because it's constantly revving decently high, but it's a 180-degree crank parallel twin, and it's really small cylinders, and so yes, there is vibration, but part of the reason why I take this is because it's better than a 250cc thumper, like a single cylinder, and it's better than I mean, it's less vibration than the 270 cross-plane crank MT-07 I have, right? That's like 700-ish cc's. I mean, it's just smoother, in my opinion. And a lot of people like to clown on 180s and be like, oh, 180s stink. But it's like, if you have teeny tiny pistons and they just go so fast up and down, it's like, it kind of like, I don't know, it stops bothering you, especially if you ride like a 650 thumper and realize how bad vibrations can be on a bike. And, you know, everything is mounted here just like straight to the bike. Nothing's rubber mounted. My pegs don't have rubber isolators, nothing. So, from that perspective, it's still totally fine. And, like, part of why I love this bike is it's so easy to park. Like, I always take a bike, and I oftentimes take this bike to Cars and Coffee, because it's just so easy to park, which is true of all bikes, but this one especially, because if you need to move it around and stuff, it's just light, you know, it's thin, it doesn't take up that much room. You can fold the mirrors in, like, I don't know if those kind of blade mirrors that go out, that some people do. So overall, just really, really excellent bike. So let's pass here and just see roll-on power in 6th gear. That's just wide open throttle. So plenty of passing power, right? Because that's something you need to live with a bike daily. You need to actually be able to twist your wrist and go. And that was no downshifts, no anything. So, you know, is it amazing? No. But is it perfectly adequate? Yeah, it's perfectly adequate. It's totally fine. It's, you know, we'll see. We'll see if we can take them. There you go, we made it for the next car. So, yeah, honestly, like, and that's just 6th gear rolling on, right? Not even a downshift. So, honestly, pretty good. Like, because these are the things you want every day, right? You don't want to have to fill up your tank every single day. You don't want to have to downshift like multiple gears. Like the CRF, I'd be downshifting, bro, to make that like a 250cc, right? You get decent wind protection, honestly. Like, put this higher windshield on and you can actually tuck down and get some protection if it's raining and whatever. So I think this has actually been a really, really remarkably good bike to ride daily. That's all for me today. Hope you all enjoyed. If you're on the fence about getting an R3 or what's it like to live with, I mean, I live with it with even lowered and worse ergonomics, right? Lowered clip-ons and stuff. So still a great bike to live with every day. Alright, I will catch you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.